Sorry, I don't mean to start this off laughing, but while I'm trying to do this seriously, my husband's outside pretending to flash me. No, go away, I'm making a video. Thank you. Do you want to see the single finger today? Do you want to see it? There you go, I'm doing it behind the camera. This is YouTube I'm doing this for. I'm not sure if the finger's allowed. Getting back to business. Today we're going to discuss, do we know who we're dealing with? Because I think it's really important to be transparent. I probably talk too much about myself. I could tell you anything. I'm not bothered whether you think I'm a failure or a success. I'm happy with where I sit in my life, and I've got nothing to hide from getting here. I've never trodden on any toes. I've never done anybody over. I've never treated my staff badly. I've never treated my family badly. So I don't have anything to hide. But the trouble is, the people who get in positions of power usually do have something to hide. And it might not be that unsavoury, but surely we should know more about him. I mean, did you really want to think Keith Vaz was a justice minister sitting on a justice committee when he's been trying to procure rent boys and snorting cocaine, allegedly, according to reports, according to the sting operation? Do you really want to think these people have power over you? Because I don't agree with it. I think if you're going to run for Parliament, you should be running your life better than me. You should be sitting in that Parliament and I should be able to look up to you and what you're doing in your life and think, yeah, he's made a success of his life. Let's have a listen to what he's got to say, because I like the way he's doing things. Now, can you really say that about anybody in Parliament? And why do people who seem to have the ear of the nation take years and years to get to Parliament? Nigel Farage, for one, he's been making sense for nearly, over a decade, 20 years if you include his EU time. Why is it taking him so long to get into this, basically a boys' club called Westminster? Because they didn't want him in. Why did they not want him in? Because he talks like us, because he understands the value of nationalism, and the last thing the globalists want is someone in Parliament who understands the value of nationalism. This has nothing to do with marching through towns with St George's flags. This is to do with knowing that it's sensible to want your country to be what it used to be in certain areas, a leading manufacturing hub, a place of safety for others to come, but not in great numbers and certainly not illegally. A place with a varied landscape, excellent farming conditions. We are the ones with the good farming conditions. We don't need the EU for that. Our human rights and animal rights are the finest in the world. I mean, come on, look at China. We're not going to copy them for that, are we? So here we have this country that started to fail. But why did it start to fail when it had everything? Because the people in power don't want it to succeed. Because they've decided that we are no better than an enclave for tax. And the power is on the global stage. And that gives them a feeling of being more important. They get off on it. They get off on it. Don't kid yourself, they don't. So various carrots are dangled to groom the thinking from corporations and big banks and other individuals that present themselves as philanthropic, but not necessarily so, because they all start foundations, don't they? And foundations, to simplify, if I'm very, very wealthy and I've got all my wealth in my left-hand pocket and I'm being taxed on it at 40 to 60%, if I put it in a foundation, I can get it tax exempt nearly, providing I agree to put a minimum of 3% of what I gain into a charitable trust or a charity. 3%. Now, most people with foundations, you can look at them all, Zuckerberg, Clinton's, Obama, they're all there. They treat the 3% as a ceiling, not a starting point. They never give any more than 3%. I'm happy to stand corrected if you can find me one foundation that's given more than 3%. This is great wealth, bearing in mind. So you move your money from the tax pocket to another pocket. It's still your money. You can use it for anything you want, as long as you give just 3% per annum away. The Markles have done it. I call them the Markles because really she wears her pants. So these people want to keep hold of everything they've got. They are elitists. And I believe in transparency. That's why I'm quite an open person. And I struggle with people who aren't open. I get on with Lilani Dowding really well. Why? Because she's open and honest. What you see is what you get. There's no hidden agenda. I've met other people through lockdown, really, that I feel the same about. That's why I keep saying I've probably been feeding and accommodating people that I shouldn't have done for the last 30 years, because when I look at them closely, we don't have that thing, whatever it is, in common. Now, currently, we've got a leader and everybody gets depressed about it because Labour are in. Oh no, Labour are in. But this is where you don't attach any importance to the red badge, because whatever's going on now would have happened under a blue badge. And this is what I mean. Labour was originally for the working class, somewhere for the working class to turn when they felt they weren't getting heard, and human rights. And we're talking when we needed human rights. Men going down mines, working in foundries, working long hours. And they did a lot of good, especially with the NHS. They developed something where we could get access to instant healthcare, but basic healthcare to sort things out, like basic diseases like flu and pneumonia that people got repeatedly and died from it. So they improved so much for the working class, but those days are over. The days of the Labour Party being for the working class are absolutely over. And here's proof. I'm going to prove it. But you can disagree, because this is only my opinion. Keir Starmer, what do we know about him? Well, we know he was part of the Jimmy Savile kerfuffle. Put it in a box. What we don't know about him is he's a member of the Trilateral Commission. What is it? Well, the Trilateral Commission is very similar to the WEF, but not as big, and they meet in secret and you have to be invited in. Keir Starmer was invited in. Keir Starmer, not Jeremy Hunt, not Rishi Sunak. Keir Starmer was invited in 2019. Why would they choose a Labour guy? Well, maybe because he was already predestined to be a somebody. Everybody got to be a somebody. Because in 2015, with no political experience, he was elected as an MP. And by the end of that parliamentary term, he was the leader of the party. And by 2024, he's the leader of the country. That is some political career. You could be forgiven for thinking he was fast-tracked. He's already told us he prefers to deal with the WEF because you can get things done. That's what he said. Because Westminster has this, it's cluttered up with legislation, bills you have to pass through Parliament, that you have to get past 650 other people that may or may not agree with you. You can whip your own into shape, but you can't whip the opposition. So I question myself when I think, well, hang on a minute. This is a man that not very charismatic, wooden in public. How can he do so well? Because he hasn't got that appeal, has he? He has not appealed to the nation. He's just been plonked in front of the Labour Party. And he's the member of the Trilateral Commission, which is elitist. Now, when you think of the speed of his career and where he is now, and the fact that he prefers to deal with corporate interests, because that's what when you say to someone, when you say to a mate list that, well, I prefer to deal with the WEF than Westminster, what you're basically saying, Westminster is set up to represent constituents. That's what it's there for. Constituents are voters. So if he prefers to deal with the WEF when nobody votes them in, he's the leader of the country now who's openly admitted he prefers to deal with corporate interests. Because you don't join the WEF to serve the interests of your employees. You join the WEF to serve the interests of yourself and your profits. Now, there's nothing wrong with making profit if you're offering good services. But let's face it, the European Union has managed to keep British wages low, which benefits huge corporations, for over a decade. We've even imported cheap labour so that the British wages are kept artificially low, because that is what the WEF want. Because they're corporations, they're big banks, and they want low overheads to keep profits up. As the chairman of Moderna, the former chairman of Moderna, who'd never brought a drug safely to market until the rollout, they hadn't, any of the drugs that they'd invested in researching for 10 years were not deemed safe enough to market. And he said at a finance meeting in front of shareholders, remember, we are an investment company that happens to make drugs. Wow, that's reassuring. So let's get back to Keir Starmer. Starmer is a member of this elitist group. It doesn't get talked about much. Google it. You can find loads of information out. I'm not telling you anything you couldn't find out from Google or DuckDuckGo. Trilateral Commission. Starmer invited in 2019. By 2024 as the leader of the country. Again, as I'll point out, these organisations, they describe themselves as just a think tank, a discussion group to talk about things. People with lots of money don't waste their time jumping on jets, flying all over the world, simultaneously tying in with G7, G8, all these summits. They don't do that for nothing. They don't do that for a chat. We're having a chat here. They don't do that. They want to move things forward, and they can afford lobbyists. Small businesses, the self-employed, cannot afford lobbyists. And the lobbyists can jockey the government along. But if you've already got someone who's in the government within the legislative body, then your think tank is going to stand a better chance of getting what it wants than I am. Because I can't do anything about it. I've just been a small business owner, now retired. So I have absolutely zero clout. But Keir Starmer, he's in with all the top knobs. So how can we actually believe there's a choice between Labour and Tory anymore? How can anybody naively sit there and think there's some choice? There's no point sitting here afraid of Keir Starmer. Because whoever had won this election, the face in the front of number 10 is just a stooge. This is my opinion, of course. This is what the channel's here for, my opinion, than you to come on the thread with yours. So what I'm saying is, don't sit here. There's so much doom and gloom because people see a Labour government. This man is no more a Labour thinking MP for the people. What they want is a one world government. They want control. They think we have, this trilateral commission thinks that we have too much say. They don't think we should have a vote. Read the prognosis about the future with this bunch, about how they think we have too much say and we need controlling. We can't think for ourselves. These people actually think that they should think for us. They think that we shouldn't control our own lives. They want a central bank digital currency. They want control of everything. Now, we are heavily taxed and poorly served, and that's not going to get any better. But it wasn't going to get any better if the Tories had won. So what you've got to look at, a man like Keir Starmer can go from 2015 a nobody. I could have been a somebody, I'm a nobody. He's gone from that to the leader of the country in 9 years? The leader of the party in 5. That's quick. Considering we see Nigel Farage, who's had to be an MEP for 20 years, delivering speech after speech, trying to open up to the world what the European Union is really about. Now I think the world knows. So many people in my WhatsApp groups, several WhatsApp groups with journalists, people from GB News, nobody from Sky, James Melville, Lilani Dowding, quite a few others, celebrities that shall remain nameless that think like we do. And a lot of these people that are in these WhatsApp groups actually voted to stay in the EU, not because they believed in it. They didn't understand there was something wrong with it. And most people felt like that. I did. My husband explained it to me. Because really, the EU is the European arm of the globalist movement. And the European Union, it keeps everything nice and tight. And when you think that Ursula von der Leyen is now thinking of a wealth tax, which I call a greed tax, so that whatever you've accrued, they're going to tax you on it. And you have to tell them what you've got, from jewellery to land to works of art to cars to savings. They want the hands on all of it. Because what you've got to remember with these politicians, and this is what is really important for most average people, stop thinking they're better. Stop thinking they're more intelligent. They're not. They've just got more power. And a lot of them got the power base illegitimately. because they shouldn't be in these powerful positions. Ursula von der Leyen has nothing to offer Europe, nothing at all. She nearly crippled German defence. You'll find a lot of the European politicians are people who failed in their own countries. And unfortunately, we are no better. The advantage we've got is that we are trailing behind Europe in a lot of things, especially with this wealth tax that's being punted out at the moment. But we will join in with it because Keir Starmer will want to, and Keir Starmer will want us back in. I cannot see him ever being able to just pass legislation about going back into Europe. I think that would have to be a referendum. But I think there should be more referendums. This is this direct form of democracy like the Swiss use. But it can only go hand in glove with an honest media. Now, when the Watergate scandal broke, that was broke by the Washington Post. And that was when all these news services, be it, papers, TV channels, radio stations, they were independently owned. And they were fighting each other for competition. They wanted to get that leak, that scoop. That's all gone. Because all the corporations, all the news channels, all the papers are owned by the same 6 companies right across the West. So you're not getting the same. You're getting management speak journalism. Journalism is dead. Journalists are a dying species. Where's McIntyre gone? Where's the Cook Report? What's happened to them all? We don't get anything like that anymore. You get the odd bit, like about the post office scandal. They'll leak something that's, I would call, a secondary issue because it only affected some postmasters. Dreadful as it was, completely wrong, but it's not going to affect your life. But it shows you how corporations work, how this huge corporation that got it wrong covered it up, and how the post office covered it up, and how they made ordinary people pay the price by losing their homes, even suicide, because they were shamefaced locally and made out to look like they were fiddling their post offices when they weren't. Now, what you've got to look at, if you want to know what globalism's like, it's like the post office scandal for everyone. Nobody has a voice and nobody has anyone to turn to. It's taken a TV channel and a docudrama to open up to the world what happened to the sub-postmasters. Now what you've got to look at is, that shocked us. It's got it discussed in Parliament. What we've got to ask is, why weren't you terrible people discussing this in Parliament anyway? Why wasn't this on your agenda? How come people like Ed Davey can run for leader of the whatever they're called now, Lib Dums? How can you seriously think that we take notice of you? How can you be daft enough to vote for him? Oh, he's been kayaking and he's flown from Land's End to Glasgow in a private jet. And he's talking about green energy. These people are so transparently bad. Bad for the nation. Because they're not honest individuals. They're not transparent people, are they? We can see it. And Keir Starmer with this trilateral commission, it's all there in plain sight. I'm not looking anything up that's like, I'm not getting top secret data here. This is on the internet. This is on the internet. So I think to myself, we deserve better than this. So what I want to do after I've delivered my political stuff is show you how to cope with it all. Because several things here. Whether he's a member of this organisation or not, it's not something we can do anything about. We can't change it. He's still a member and he's still the leader of the country. So this is how we work. We think to ourselves, right, this is if you want to go down my way of thinking. You don't have to follow this. You don't have to like me. And if you don't, get off my page. Don't start telling me I'm rubbish. Go and start your own page. Go and do your own thing. Don't start picking holes in what I do. This is for us. People who are here who want to get through this next few years without caving in and getting depressed. Because whatever I've just told you, you don't need to get depressed about it. Because what you've got to look at, after I've delivered this information, I'll use my own life as an example. What's going to change in my life today after knowing this? I've known about it for 36 hours. Nothing's changed. I'll still walk my dogs, I'll still go in my garden, I'll still do my blogs, I'll cook, I'll enjoy my wine with my dinner at night, and I'll have a laugh with friends and probably watch a bit of rubbish telly. But what you've got to look at is it's not going to change your life. There's always, someone said to me years ago, there'll always be somebody bad in charge. And I said, what made you say that? He said, because being good doesn't pay very well. What we've got to look at with this information, this, for instance, we'll stick to the Trilateral Commission. They don't really like democracy because it clutters up what they're trying to do. Because we complain about it, we say, hang on a minute, I don't want that. So what you've got to look at with these organisations, we are a nuisance. We're a nuisance because we're here. We're part of it. And that's why people like Starmer are willing to hand over controls to places like the WHO, the WEF, because it's like that question of Tony Benn's, the 5 questions. His last question is, how can we get rid of you? You can't get rid of the WHO. You can't get rid of the WEF because you didn't vote them in. So whilst I do understand that people say, oh, voting's pointless, no, it's only pointless if you allow it to be pointless. So what they need apathy. They need you to be apathetic. They need you to think that. They need you to think, well, it's pointless. If you're apathetic, you're the only fly in the ointment in their life. Apathy helps them move forward and hold you back. So what we want dissenting voices. We want people talking about it in the supermarkets, in the queues, waiting to go through the till. We want people talking about it on dog walks. We want people exchanging information at dinner parties. Forget this business of, oh, you don't talk politics and religion. Oh, I think you should be talking politics and religion now because 1 or 2 religions have their eye on this country for themselves. They don't want to integrate. They want to run it. So we're very, very much, we've had it so easy for so long, it's hard for some people to understand that the fight we now have is the fight of information, and the more information you can deliver at any point in time on any platform is doing good, even to the point of being unpopular. You've got to think enough about yourself to be unpopular with those that might be thinking that you've gone bonkers. So back to coping. You now have some more information. Maybe you already knew. Maybe it's new. But what's going to happen today in your life different to before you knew it? Because my life isn't going to be any different today, and it's not been any different for a number of days and weeks. I just get on with living my life, but stay informed. And now, even when people tell me they've got some sort of condition, because there's quite a few tell you, I always ask if they joined in the rollout. As soon as they tell me of a third party, obviously I just use the proper name for the drug, but I just say, oh, did they join in the rollout? How many did they have? I just ask that as a pertinent question now, because I've not come across anybody where they said, oh no, he didn't. No, he's just had this heart condition diagnosed and he didn't join in the rollout. Nobody says that. They all say the opposite. So I'm just a bit more direct about things, and it's now the balance on that front has shifted a bit, whereby you're not just as ridiculous as you looked 3 years ago for your concerns. So bearing in mind all the things they hope to achieve during this last 2 or 3 years when we locked down, all the things they thought they were going to implement and put up on us, they failed at every hurdle. So when you ask, are we winning? We can't really fail. It's just going to be a different sort of fight to what you imagined. Everything that happens revolves around us being consumers. We consume things, food, products, services. And you've got to get our permission. We've got to want what you're selling to us, or we don't buy it. This is the West. This isn't a third world here. And what's happened, they've sold us the idea that we should have had a health passport, but we haven't bought into it. They've sold us the idea that we should all get joining multiple rollouts. We haven't bought into it. take-up is down, that's why they've stopped providing it. Hybrids are more popular than all-electric cars because we're not buying into it. So what's happening here? We're getting bad advice from people without the knowledge to advise us. That's the thing. But what they forget is we can advise ourselves. You don't have to be highly educated to use Google or DuckDuckGo, which doesn't have your track, does it, with your searches. You can Google about heat pumps. You can find out for yourself that, hang on a minute, if I get a heat pump, I've got to have my floor insulated as well as my walls and my roof. I've got to have this, that and the other, extra radiators. It won't get my water as hot. You can find out for yourself. You can talk to a heating engineer, he'll tell you. Your electrician will tell you they're marvellous because he'll be putting them in, and your heating engineer will tell you how tough they are. So you can make your own mind up, can't you? But the trouble is, we've got these people in Parliament who we sit here, people who watch this podcast, people who watch other podcasts, sit here, and believe me, there's millions of you. And we know that you are absolute duffers in Westminster, that most of you cannot organise, or you wouldn't last 2 minutes in your own business. Do you know that? They wouldn't last 12 months. They'd be bust. Because they haven't got the wherefore, the common sense, the nous, the aptitude, the enthusiasm that you need to run a business. And common sense tells me that the Trilateral Commission, the WEF, the WHO, they're not interested in small businesses. And yet 85% of our GDP is made up from small to medium-sized businesses, not corporations. They're only at the tip of the iceberg. They're not the bulk of the product base. It's smaller businesses. They're the lifeblood of this country. And we'll never stop wanting to have them. So we'll always work around it. I mean, now with medium-sized businesses, they're using agencies to employ people because the European Union legislative employment laws are so intrusive that a business cannot function and adhere to them. You can't function if you've got 4 employees and let's say you employ a couple and she's off with maternity leave and he's off with paternity leave. Now, if that was in ICI or Nabisco, it would go unnoticed. But if you've only got 5 or 6 employees and 2 of them are off at the same time, how on earth do you function? Paying them and then paying someone else to come in and do their job. It's just not going to work, is it? And so the very idiotic fact that they think they can do this is the bit that's going to let them down. Because all the stuff they're trying to implement, we won't want to take part in it. You don't have to be an activist. You don't have to be watching this. Talk to any normal person. They don't want to be part of this. So how can their success... You need numbers. Anything to be successful, you need the numbers. And they're not going to get the numbers. Because as it unfolds and gets bigger, more people go, well, hang on a minute. Just like with the rollout, the booster uptake dropped to 3%. Minus 1% in some places. It was at 95% when they started. That's just an example on one issue. Because we will make our own minds up. And whilst, yeah, the sheep, as we call them, well, I don't call them sheep, because I think we had a right operation done on us. I think we were bullied into believing what the government told us, and the media, how they sleep at night is beyond me. I do not know how they sleep at night after they'd delivered such exaggeration and bullying to people into the homes every night. And you've got to understand that if you've no other access to information, you're an old couple sat on your own watching the telly and still wandering around in a mask. It's because the imprint's been left. They've terrified people, terrified them. Obviously, I'm fairly fit and healthy. I'm 66. They didn't terrify me. I just thought, what? Whoa, just a minute. How long's it been developed? Where's your test results? Who's putting it in my arm? A fireman? No thanks. How come nurses have to study for this and use like fake rubber bodies to practice on? And you can just come out of a shift in fire service and sit in a centre and I'm going to bang it in your arm. Oh, right. Any problem with bad sightings for injection? Oh, yeah, quite a few actually. No, I didn't want to join in with that, funnily enough, because I thought to myself, well, I'm sat here, I've managed to look after my own life myself. I'm going to put it at the hands of this government when they've lied to me about my pension, they've lied to me about Brexit, they've never delivered anything. Can you tell me anything, your government? Don't matter which party, just forget that. Which government's made a success of anything? Apart from pouring money into EU, while Poland gets hospitals and roads and we get potholes and filth. So yeah, that's why I was a bit sceptical. So I thought, well, hang on, these are the same people who thought it was all right to rob me of 45,000 quid because they made me wait 6 years for my pension. I should have had it when I was 60. I didn't get it till last year. So, no, I didn't trust you. And then Brexit, oh, come on, Boris, die in a ditch. How many ditches? You must have been digging yours, been like a navvy. You could have probably done bloody footings for the next new motorway. You died in that many ditches before you implemented Brexit. And everybody knows it was easy enough. You just go to WTO rules. Do you realise that if we'd just gone straight to World Trade Order rules, we'd have had 10 years to come up with a deal? 10 years we'd have got. Ask Ben Habib. Oh no, we have to leave with a deal. No, we didn't. All right, if you think that's wrong, what do the rest of the world trade with the EU on? Oh, there you go. Yeah, WTO rules. That's the one. WTO rules. Yeah, that's how they do it. Other countries, marvellous. And not only that, most of the countries that did a deal with the EU only did a deal with the EU to get to the British market because we spend like crazy. We've got more credit card debt in Europe than any other country. In or out the EU, we've got more credit card debt because we spend more on our homes than the French and the Germans. They don't spend on the homes like we do. They don't go fitting double glazing and new central heating. They don't need to. They've got better climate. They don't do the gardens like us. The people do not spend like the British. They don't change the sofas and the furniture every 6 years or so. The average is 6 years. They don't go on holiday as frequently because they're living in countries that have a decent climate, so they don't need to go anywhere. The French sit on their own beaches, they ski on their own ski slopes, they drink their own wine and eat their own cheese. Same in Italy and Spain. Go in a Spanish supermarket, show me the French wine section. All right, that's right, there isn't one. Austria was there 12 years. I saw one lot of Australian wine. It was like novelty value on a novelty shelf. No, they had Austrian wine. You drank Austrian wine. Red or white, you drank it. Their country. You see, there's only us that has depleted. Germany runs a bit like us, to be fair. They're a bit more international. But we had all the cards in our favour because we were the biggest customer. Apart from the US, we were the biggest customer. So we could have named our price. But nobody had any gonads, did they? There's one thing in short supply in Westminster, it's gonads. Yeah, there's more gonads in trans community, I think, than there is in Westminster. Nobody's got a pair. They're all like, oh, chinless wonders, caving in to unsuitable legislation. And even when we pulled away, they want to go back closer into it. You just can't make it up. But the thing is, we're the bit at the end. We're the bit at the end of the funnel. After they've done all this up here, it's got a funnel down to us. And if we go, no, we don't want it. I'm not having it, I'm not buying it. And you can do that to them quite easily because all you need to do, everybody uses supermarkets. You get your milk and your bread and whatever you want to get there. Shop where you want. I'm not telling you where to shop. But every time you spend locally at a farm shop or an independent retailer or you use a local tradesman, every time you do that, you are helping to fight back, even though you don't know it. That's all part of the pushback. Look at cash. Everybody's using cash. Cha-ching, their tills are hot again. Because we want our freedom. Not because we're trying to do the government out of anything. We just don't want you telling us when and where to spend our money. And if you're a retail outlet, people don't want to be told that they have to use a card machine that's costing them too much money. Granted, cards are easy enough. It takes the clutter out your purse and stuff like that. But, yeah, let's have both. Let's have the choice. Let's keep choice alive. And we are the ones in control of that. They can't take that away from us. We are the ones in control of the choices. And if we make them now, then they will see that it's an uphill battle. Just like Theresa May couldn't introduce the dementia tax because she knew the nation was against it, she had to drop it and flop it. We are in control of so much more than you think. 5 a day. Don't forget your 5 a day. 5 good things every day. And watch this. And just remember, we're still in a good position. You've still got food in your fridge. You've still got clothes on your back. Hopefully you can still pay your bills. And what they're trying to do to us is taking them a damn sight longer than they thought.